let's start high level. Here's how it works, Wyatt. Wyatt asks, how does the draft lottery work? Every team is assigned a variety of number combinations. And the draft lottery isn't actually happening live. It takes place several hours before the TV broadcast happens. Every team is assigned a bunch of different number combinations, which are represented on ping pong balls. They put all of the ping pong balls into a big machine, and then an independent auditor will go through a process where they select them in order from picks 1 through 6, starting with pick 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. That's all that happens in the draft lottery. So the better your odds, the more ping pong ball / number combinations you have. The TV broadcast happens a couple of hours later, and to make that more of an event, they will broadcast in reverse order, meaning from like the bottom of round 1 up to the number 1 overall pick. And two things made that challenging in 2025. One, they go at lightning speed, so it's very hard to keep track of like, has anyone moved around, moved up, moved down, and so on and so forth. And then two, because they're essentially going in a reverse order, it's kind of hard to know who's going where. So here's my advice for people who might be watching the draft lottery. Pull up Tankathon so you have the live standings or reverse standings in front of you while you watch it, and check off the teams as they come up. And what you want to see is teams that have lower odds sticking in those lower slots. For example, the Mets, I think, have like the 17th best odds. They barely miss the playoffs. They have like a 0.6% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. You want to hear them in that 17th spot to know that they didn't move up at someone else's expense. So the lottery only applies to the top 6 picks. Let's assume for a second that, you know, in a not best case scenario, but in like good news, the Twins secure a lottery pick, which is the top 6 pick. The order in round 2 through the rest of the draft just goes in reverse standings order. So starting in round 2, the Twins will pick 4th in every round through the end of the draft. So let's pause there. That's kind of like the mechanics of it, and we'll get into like who's ineligible and bonus pools and all of this stuff. Jeremy, I guess like from your lens, right, as like less of a draft lottery-aholic and someone who's just more interested in like what is the outcome and what does it mean for my team and like who's picking first and what does the money look like? Now that we're in cycle 4, like, do you like the draft lottery? Any major complaints? And then Kyle asked a question which maybe you can touch on too, and he says, thoughts on the draft lottery surviving the next CBA? Is it a good thing in general for baseball? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm actually a huge fan of the NBA draft lottery, which I believe went from 3 teams to 4 teams in the last handful of years. And the whole idea is to make the tanking less obvious. So it used to be set up in such a way that if you were the worst team, you had a really good chance. And then if you're the second worst team, you had lesser of a chance. And now they've kind of flattened those odds out. So I like the idea in all sports of having the lottery. There's been talk of it, not like major talk, but it's like, will football ever go to that? There's a lottery in the WNBA. There's a lottery in the NHL. There's a lottery in the NBA, and now there's a lottery in MLB. And so I think that the question is, how do I feel about it? I like it. The 6 teams is weird because the more teams that you draw, the less beneficial it is to be bad, right? And so then you add in these other things that we'll talk about next about the teams that drop out of the top 10. I hate that. I think that's a really stupid thing, and I could see that in the next CBA being a topic that's revisited, because I think the intended consequences were probably done correctly, but the unintended consequences are what we see, and it's teams that are bad or unfortunate, and then it gets piled on, right? And so to me, dropping out of the top, or not being able to pick higher than 10th, is something that should be changed. I do think the lottery survives the CBA. I
So do I.
don't know if it survives. I would be surprised if it survives identically as it is today.